Now, as you probably know, the book Dark Emu was published 5 years ago, but it's cooking up a storm right now, partly because of literary prizes, a new junior edition for school kids and a looming ABC documentary series. The book and its author, Bruce Pascoe, are in the spotlight. Dark Emu claims to reveal the true sophistication of pre-settlement Aboriginal society, particularly its use of what Pascoe calls agriculture and also what he describes as houses, villages, complete with animal yards, plus baking, dams and even democracy. Much of this is contested, with forensic analysis noting differences between primary sources and Pascoe's paraphrasing or his exaggeration or even his invention. A website is devoted to this scrutiny, and a book has been published this month, Bitter Harvest by Peter O'Brien, making all of the counter-arguments. This is an important debate, to be settled on the facts, of course, and Andrew Bolt has weighed in strongly in print and here on Sky News.
And Sturt goes on to say that the smallness of the Aborigines' waterholes quite a matter of surprise to him, but Pascoe rewrites that too. He claims that Sturt, in fact, found that the Aborigines had dug a well about 70 foot deep. 70 foot deep. And that's an engineering feat, he says. In fact, it's a total invention. Sturt describes how the Aboriginal women in this place beat some local seed for cakes, crushing them between two stones, and says the noise of that was exactly like the working of a loom factory back in England. But Pascoe rewrites this in Dark Emu to claim that Sturt had described not Aboriginal women crushing grain between two stones, but in fact the whirring of hundreds of mills grinding grain into flour. Hundreds of mills. Two stones become hundreds of mills.
As if this is not controversial enough, there's also great contention around Pascoe's claim of Indigenous heritage.
And two, a genealogist and a family tree expert, have also trawled through birth certificates like this one from his family, as well as death notices, graveyard records. They can't find one single Pascoe ancestor who is Aboriginal. Every one of them seems to have come from English immigrants. But Pascoe's refused to come on the show to explain, and he will not answer my written questions.
So apart from O'Brien's book and the website contributors and Andrew Bolt, how have journalists tackled this debate, this pursuit of truth in an important area? Sadly, the reaction from journalists has had more to do with defending the narrative than ascertaining facts. "Oh, look," tweeted ABC drum host Ellen Fanning last week, "Bruce Pascoe has already answered Bolt's claim that he's not really Indigenous and is making up his history. In his 2012 essay, he offers to have a beer with Bolty, doesn't rage at his scepticism and offers to answer his questions." Perhaps Fanning didn't hear Bolt say Pascoe had refused to appear on his show or answer his written questions. Then this from ABC presenter Wendy Harmer. "Astonishing that Bolt accuses Pascoe of rewriting history when so many of Pascoe's sources are white blokes who literally wrote what we now call history." Harmer astonishingly assumes there's no inconsistency between Pascoe's primary sources and his claims. That's called missing the point, deliberately or otherwise. From a Qantas lounge, renewables evangelist Simon Holmes à Court tweeted Bolt is undermining Pascoe, so former ABC Sports presenter Debbie Spillane responded, "Don't spread the hate and ignorance, Qantas. Dark Emu is one of the most enlightening books I've read, and its author is a national treasure." And Nine newspaper outrage merchant Clementine Ford says the examination by Bolt is defamatory and she hopes Pascoe sues the F out of him. ABC presenter Benjamin Law reckons if Andrew Bolt's publicly shitting himself over it, you know it's good. Dark Emu will recalibrate everything you know about Aboriginal architecture, engineering and agriculture on this continent. The irony is rich here. Remember Law's Waltzing the Dragon ABC documentary this year, when he was caught giving the impression Chinese miners were scalped in Goldfields riots, even though the historian he interviewed and had edited actually specified there were contrary reports that did not happen. Still, that's history, isn't it? and journalism, researching accounts and searching for truth, isn't it? Well, no. At the ABC, there's a long list of journalists refusing to interrogate or even question any of this Dark Emu stuff. Radio National presenter Patricia Carvelis makes the same presumption that Harmer did. This book uses primary extracts, which it includes heavily. You can see it all in black and white. It's all there. And this seems to really trigger some people to use the word agriculture and Aboriginal in the same sentence. So here we go. Agriculture and Aboriginal. Enlightening stuff, isn't it? What really seems to trigger these journalists is questions and debate about Pascoe's claims, because they like his rhetoric. Here he is in September on the ABC.
This changes world history. This country, your country, where you live, was generating the introduction of society into the world. We ought to be proud of it, and we ought to acknowledge it and not get all gun-shy. Like our older white politicians want us to be. Our white politicians want us to be gun-shy. They don't want us to go there because it's too disturbing for them and mucks up their plan for a deeply capitalist Australia.
This is important. The truth matters. We need to get to the facts. And his theories will soon be part of school curricula around the country. Still, he gets a dream run at the ABC.
Bruce Pascoe, always good to have a yarn with, Indigenous author and historian. And of course, if you haven't read his book, Dark Emu, you must. Sort of the only thing I think you should do. Just do it now. Go get the book. This is RN Drive.
Yep, that's your taxes at work, and that's an example of what passes for journalistic scrutiny.